Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, technology, social media, and just items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If you are new to the channel, I want to welcome you here. And if you are a frequent viewer, I would encourage both of you guys now to consider clicking that watermark down there in the bottom right-hand corner to subscribe, along with that notification bell. That way you guys will know when there is additional content here on the channel. This week in gaming, we did get the Al Sundan map for Battlefield 5. It was limited to Team Conquest and Domination though, so I am looking forward to it coming out in full Conquest. There were some changes to the game in the patch that were kind of a welcoming change, particularly when it comes to bipods, although those are still kind of hit or miss sometimes. And we were kind of hit with a bit of a performance issue as well. So hopefully those things will be addressed in the future, and hopefully we'll be getting that Al Sundan map for Conquest mode very soon. I also wanted to include and let you guys know that I did do a review this week as well, up here in the top right-hand corner on apple cider vinegar, my experience of kind of what it was like taking apple cider vinegar for 2 years and what my particular experience was. So be sure to check that out. This week in Portland, in the state of Oregon, for our foreign friends, if you were inclined to know what state it is, there was a rally that was taking place there, and a journalist by the name of Andy Gno, a Vietnamese American, was attacked by Antifa. Now, Andy is a proper journalist. He has done work for some of the major mainstream media brands and publications, and apparently he had been threatened quite often by Antifa, and apparently they recognized him at the event and pursued him, and through what is the obligatory milkshake. However, it also had a mixture of quick drying concrete, which has particular chemicals in it that can actually cause burning and other irritations to the skin, which I don't know whether or not the Antifa members actually knew, or perhaps because they knew is a reason why they also used it. He sustained some facial injuries, as well as what we later learned was actually a brain hemorrhage from the experience. So he was roughed up pretty badly, and I'm just kind of showing you articles right now as we discuss this, because it is limited and there is actual video of this attack taking place, and other journalists and other individuals that were there were able to capture some of the Antifa members who were involved in this. And I find it kind of interesting because here you have Antifa, a group that is supposed to be against fascism, actually exercising, practicing, and executing fascism in and of itself to espouse their philosophy of non-fascism. So the thing is, here we don't have authorities here in the United States that have openly recognized Antifa as a domestic terrorist group as of yet. This of course made it all over Twitter and other social media. It did get some media coverage, even by CNN, and of course it was also on Fox News and some other outlets in a minor capacity. And of course, as you can anticipate, they left out a great deal of information that would typically be included in these types of events. For example, like with Jussie Smollett, right? Andy Gno is openly gay. He is obviously he also is at this event during what would be considered Pride Month. So it's interesting how the media didn't really delve into that aspect of it. Although in my opinion, as we discussed here, I don't really see how those sorts of characteristics about a certain individual should have any influence when it comes to their work and activities that are going on, or protesting, or having the exercising your lawful capabilities to cover an event. And he was there lawfully, of course. I mean, he's a journalist, so he's there in that capacity. But nonetheless, so this event did happen, and unfortunately he was assaulted. But the good news is that there was a GoFundMe, and as of when I last looked or was watching material on this to cover this. He was up to over 100,000 already, so that should help cover some of the things. But of course, the bigger concern being that with the head trauma and maybe other particular side effects of this event, we don't know what that's going to have, what kind of effect that can have long term. But nonetheless, very troubling. I'm interested to see how social media is going to, maybe take action against these particular groups, because clearly they not only incite but actually carry out violence. So of course people were asking Twitter and other social media platforms, what they were going to do, how they were going to address this, because it's obviously active. They knew exactly who it was. There was no mystery as to who it was. Of course, the individuals in and of themselves, of course, have to be kind of tracked down to see what's going on, because obviously in the United States, assault is assault, particularly when it has this level of battery. So I know that they have made some arrests in this, and so hopefully this will send a obviously it's not going to shut down Antifa, but if we could get our authorities to identify them as a terrorist or domestic group, that will certainly have a huge impact on their organization nonetheless. But you can check all that out down in the published section below. An extraordinarily historic event took place also this weekend, with Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un and actually walking to North Korean soil, the first American president to actually enter and stand in North Korea. Now, I would have thought that this would have been a much bigger deal as far as just the diplomacy, the optics, all of the particulars that the media love when it comes to a president, particularly engaging in this sort of world-changing historical moments. But of course, it is Orange Man bad, so there was, certain levels of limited coverage. But obviously, it's going to get covered. It's going to be in media, but it didn't have all of the flowery language, and it didn't have all of the espoused highlights and all the things that you would normally expect if this were, for example, a Democrat president. But these are things that we have come to expect from the mainstream media here in the United States. And so, but this was a rather historic and monumental time. And it was just, to actually sit there and witness this, and to think that this all kind of was organized through Twitter was even more interesting. And there was some, logistical issues in some instances that you may have heard about, as it involved President Trump's newest press secretary. Just the press in general can be kind of elbowy and pushy and things like that, but it was kind of interesting that was kind of a side note where she was trying to get in with the U.S. press, and there was a little bit of tension with some of the North Korean and or Korean security and so forth, so that kind of all unfolded. But nonetheless, guys, an extraordinary time to think a U.S. president it is great for optics, it is great for the public eye, it is kind of, I guess you could say, what many of the Democrats have always been asking for, or his detractors, a presidential moment. And that was certainly one of them, and it went really well. Just the idea that he said to Kim Jong-un, hey, would you like for me to come over and step into North Korea, and which Kim Jong-un was receptive and allowed it to happen. Made for a great photo moment, and obviously sent a message across the world that we can get along with individuals that we may not necessarily agree with, I think is the bigger message here. Because, there's always these conflicting messages about Trump not doing this, not doing that, not doing the other. But it doesn't really matter who he's actually talking to. He talks to the world leaders all over the world because he's the president. That's what he does. So there's no mystery as to the fact that he would talk with and interact with most individuals and other leaders of the world. And if he can turn some sort of peace into this and get some kind of stability, people should be for this. They should be celebrating the fact that we have a president who is willing to sit down and negotiate with individuals who may be more hostile or have negative attitudes towards the United States. So this was all a positive, no matter how you wrap it up. But nonetheless, it was absolutely worth mentioning. I will leave some information for you down there in the published section if you want to read more about it. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. I want to thank you guys so much, and will encourage you right now, click that like button down there in the lower portion of the screen to give the channel a little bit of support. I know you guys do such a great job of it, but nonetheless, I do appreciate all that you guys do, as well as share if you would like to, your friends and whomever there on your social media. And of course, you can also, if you haven't already, click on that channel icon appearing right there on the screen to subscribe, along with that notification so you guys will know when the Friday vlogs are available, as well as additional content like reviews are done here on the channel. And I will see you guys next week.